All right, so we are on close read day 1. You'll notice that close reads often take 1 to 3 days, and that's because there are 2 major parts. There is a close read where students are reading with a question in mind and doing some purposeful highlighting and annotating around questions that take students into the craft and structure standards, as well as the integration of ideas standards. So that means that they're reading and annotating, and then the next and last part of this is they write in response to a more complex task. So these are going to be your ECRs, and they can range anywhere from a 1-paragraph response to a 5 to 6 paragraph essay. It's just dependent upon what you go over with your students as far as expectations. Because this is the first close read, I've included some additional resources. So you've got this video, and I also have this link to a close reading lesson sequence for how to model what a close read should look like for students. Now remember, this is in addition to what you have on StudySync. I outlined this because questions 1 and 2 focus on author's point of view and purpose. And remember, we skipped that skills lesson. So you can review this with students by modeling for students how to approach question 1, and then release them to do the other questions on their own, and it will make more sense based on what they know. So let's go look at it in StudySync. You've got your close read. Student preview looks like this. So on the front end, you've got these vocabulary words and their definition. So students can go ahead and keep these definitions in mind as they're reading, or even drop in these definitions in the form of an annotation so they can refer to it directly in the text. They've got the text again, but this time it's different because they have their questions first. And the reason that these are first is because the idea is that students will read one question and then skim the text or read the text closely, looking for the answer to this question. So I show you how I walked students through question number 1 in my extra resource embedded in the link. So if you go to that link, click on it, it will bring you to this lesson. I suggest projecting the close read up on the board. So you would be projecting this screen up on the board. So you are looking at the same screen students are seeing. Or old school, print out the text and use the dot camera. Whichever one comes more naturally to you, it doesn't matter. Also, post these 2 terms. Students should already know what these things mean because they learned them in 7th grade as well as in 6th grade. So these are really serving as a reference and not necessarily as the focus of the lesson. All right, so remember, this is adapted from the StudySync plan. On the left, you're going to see the model. So this is what I would say out loud with students, and the text is on the right. And you can see it's just the first 5 paragraphs. So as I am showing students this screen, I am saying these things right here. What this looks like is me going, all right, so the way we approach close read is by breaking down the focus question. Got our focus questions up here, or our skills question, starting with number 1. If we look at this focus question, we see that it does 2 things. 1, it gives us an author's statement. In paragraph 2, the author states that in a movie you have suspense when you let the audience play God. So it tells us something or reminds us something that we already know. Right here. Two, it asks us a question. However, this question is kind of hidden. To make it easier, I'm going to turn the last sentence into a question to help me think through the text. So instead of saying highlight text evidence and make annotations that explain how the author, film director Alfred Hitchcock, allows the audience to play God, I'm going to turn this into the question, how does the author allow the audience to play God in his films? Now, my next step is to highlight text evidence that supports how the author lets his audience do that. So you can see this is my recommended model for how to model close reading to your students. So this resource is here for you, and I also have written into my notes that you can, I have written into this lesson that you would end this model by writing a response to this question and have students record it in their journal. And then have them work alongside you in pairs to gradually release them from number 2, partners for 3, independent practice for 4 for their exit ticket. And this will really give them multiple opportunities to see that they've got the hang of these close reading questions. So that is day 1, close read. The second part of this is the longer written response. So I have this task right here. I have it written in the outline, and it's also written here in the right. Why does Hitchcock believe that an audience will work like the devil for a director if they know all the secrets that the characters don't know? What do you think this shows about his attitude toward his movie audience? Support your response with text evidence. Last year, my students wrote in response to this essay focusing on author's point of view. You may want to use this as an example for students to show them great student writing that is slightly different from the prompt. So I will always put a prompt here that is the recommended prompt that will lead students to know the concepts and skills and the MLQs and the benchmarks. Sometimes this prompt differs from the one that is by default in the lesson. All you need to do is go into when you assign and copy and paste this prompt into StudySync. So you can see that it's a little bit different. Okay. And then this link right here has some of mine and Alyssa's students from last year, what they wrote on in Monkey's Paw. And this just serves as a nice exemplar for what you should expect from students. That is not the text or the essay. So you're not giving them any answers, but you are showing them what a strong response should look like. Okay, and that is the end of our close read and our first text sequence in StudySync.